Hey everyone, it's Luke here from LT Gaming and I'm back. I want to take a look at Strategic Command American Civil War, a new and very good strategy game released by Slitherine/Matrix. I wanted to have a definitive review done for this by the end of today, but I'm just not there yet, guys. There's so much going on with this game that I think it's only fair for me to play it some more before I complete that definitive review. However, I wanted to do a first impressions with the game releasing on Steam. First of all then, let's take a look at the settings of the game. And initially there aren't too many in the department. You can choose your resolution and also change your audio settings with a couple of quality of life preferences available. The only good thing is the game comes with some pre-installed mods that you can decide to play around with. I haven't tried any of those yet. Next, when you actually go to start a game, there are 6 campaigns, all with different scopes and playing, different ways and different scenarios that you can do. I, so far, have only played one game as the Blue and the Grey campaign as the Confederates, and I'm in about 1863, but we'll load that up in a minute. If I just fire up a new campaign here, we can take a look at the options. So you can pick either the Union or the Confederates, and then you can pick AI and get them to handle different nations. So in my game, I have control of the Confederates, but I've given the AI access to the intervening nations of Britain, France, and Spain. And there are great events in the game where you can influence these countries to come join you. And in my playthrough, the French have come and joined me, which is awesome. There's a few options here around difficulty as well. I think I'm playing on Novice for my first game because I'm quite new to the series. I've played a little bit of Strategic Command World War I, but not a massive amount. There's bonuses that you can give to the computer as well if you want to make it really difficult. And when you click OK, you're presented with a number of options for how you display your units. I like the typical NATO style of counter, I think they call them, but you can also have 3D units as well. National colours and different options that you can have there. And if you click Advanced, there's a whole lot of different visual options that you can have as well. Very similar to Strategic Command World War I. Scripts also in the game. I'm not quite sure what these do, but it'd be interesting to play around with these. Okay, I think these are all the events. That's awesome, actually. I didn't realise that. So all the events and missions that can take place in the game, you can turn them on or off. So that's pretty cool. There's AI ones as well. So how the AI actually play can be adjusted. And there's pages and pages of this stuff. That's really cool. I'm very impressed. Right, so here we are loaded into my campaign. As you can see, it's May 8th, 1863, and I have a summary of the previous turn's activity. There is an initial bug that I discovered, that if you try and scroll, you'll see here, it's very, very poor. If you press escape out of the game, and then load back into the game, or minimize it and come back in, that scrolling is suddenly a lot smoother. I don't know if you've encountered that. It's a strange bug. I hope that they patch it out. The scale of the game is pretty insane, right? So as you can see, up near Maryland here, it's 1863, and my Confederate push on Washington Capitol is very much a realistic prospect at this stage. The war on the sea has been pretty crazy. I was getting hammered by the Union right up until the point that the French intervened, and now we've absolutely destroyed the American or Union Navy. But you can zoom right out. So here we go. You can see the whole war taking place across the United States. Of course, in Tennessee, there is a massive battle taking place for Kentucky. And finally, I'll go through this in a minute, how the game is shaped up, but I was pushed back to Tennessee, and I've now pushed all the way up, and I'm on a major offensive up towards Kentucky as the Confederates, and also I'm moving up the Mississippi River, and I'm looking at taking out Cairo here. We've pretty much surrounded these Union forces. Further west, there's more combat going on here with Indian brigades that joined my side early in the war. They've been fighting it out in this area, but we've got a major offensive taking place, looking to retake Jefferson City, which it flip-flops between the two in the beginning, which I didn't realise. It's a really good history lesson, this game, if you're interested in the history of the American Civil War. Then if we go all the way over to the west, you'll see that we have a campaign taking place, sort of a separate small campaign taking place in the Confederate Arizona area, where we are fighting and taking the Union and Indian lands in this area. As you can see, I can zoom out pretty far and I can get pretty close to the action as well, and I can also zoom right out to a global map. This map could do with a little work. It's not great. I mean, if I click a unit, it will take me there, but it's a little bit abstract. I'm not overly sold on this map, and I think that they could definitely improve it. But it is kind of useful in the sense that if I want to go over to my units in the west, I click them and I'm there, which is cool. Your military is made up of various different levels of command. So if we go to the purchase tab, we'll see that as the Confederates, there is the HQ, which is, you know, people like Longstreet and different people that you can bring into the battle, different historical generals. There is the brigade level, division, and corps level. And once you unlock the corps level, I have a few of them floating around over near Washington. Once you unlock the corps level, these are a lot more powerful and can hit for quite a lot of damage, which is great. So as you can see here, we have a number of choices about what we can actually do. We can attack as well, which is going to be fun in this situation. I think I've done most of my attacks for the turn actually, so I don't think there's many left to do. Yeah, as you can see, attack 0 of 1. So I've loaded in the middle of a turn here, where most of my attacks have actually been done. But I'll show you the mechanic here. I'm going to take a loss, but as you can see, as I highlight the Brigade of the Union with my own brigade, it's going to calculate that I lose 1 strength to my brigade and that they lose 0. So let's do that. And in that situation, there was actually a lucky dice roll, and we hit for 1 and we took 1 damage. Now, as you can see, the battles in that instance end up being very much based on a war of attrition. You have to balance your attacks and balance your defense and ensure that you don't get your brigades completely destroyed. So it's a risk-reward system. If I attack with this regiment here, which I think I did, I'm now down to 6 strength, which means I'm vulnerable to being completely wiped out. But the next turn, I can click this button down here and I can reinforce that unit. There's quite a few different types of unit. As you can see here, I have an armoured train that can move up and down the rail tracks and is very good for breaking through typical infantry divisions. So if we go into the actual unit itself, we can go into the properties of the armoured train, and here you can see all of the different attack values and defense values of each unit. And if they have any honours, so they destroyed a brigade, which is awesome. They have that honour on their system, on their roll of honours, let's say. Let's pick another one here. Not sure about this division. It's the Johnson E division, and they haven't destroyed anything, but as you can see, I've upgraded them with my research, and they are now massively more powerful than they were in the beginning of the game. Like I said, there's different HQ units that influence the battle, which is very good and can add extra attack and defense to your actual units. I'm still working my way through the game. This is my first major playthrough, which is why I didn't want to do a review, because I don't understand absolutely everything that's going on just yet. But overall, as you can see, I'm managing to hold my own, and although the Union assault in the beginning of the war was intense, let's say, I actually fell back to Tennessee. I lost Nashville, but then managed to push back. There was an awesome moment where Bragg took a train from, I think it was somewhere down here, he came from, New Orleans, Bragg, and he trained all the way up on a train using the rail move system. You can move using the rail track, and he led the forces in an awesome counterattack that held the line and allowed us to secure Tennessee and then push up. As the war progressed in 1863, I managed to eventually influence the French into the war through the diplomacy system, which is kind of simple. You get so much the production points per turn, and you can assign them to diplomacy, which is what I did with the French. A number of events came up that allowed me to influence the French, and eventually they joined the war. They're also having some massive war down in Mexico as well. It's something historical. I'm not fully aware of the influence of that, but it's certainly a very, very interesting war with the French attacking down here and also providing military support to my campaign, which once the French divisions turned up in the French Navy, it did give me that extra push into the north and into the Union. There's also war maps you can look around and also have a strategic command of what is actually happening. So the strategy map you can look at here, the convoy map of where you can cut off, extra supply to the Union or to the Confederates, whichever side you pick. And one thing that I really love about this game is the historical events. So there are so many cool historical options I could pick in the beginning. I chose to move towards the French and move away from the British. And that was kind of a non-historical option that I took, but it opened up a really interesting storyline for me to work on. There were plenty of options also over in the West, where I decided to send a particular commander, Van Dorn I think it was, with his brigades and to push back against the Union in the West. The game is a lot of fun. Graphically, look, it is what it is. It's hex and counter. It's not going to blow anyone away on the graphical side of things, but if you can see past that, there is quite an intuitive system going on here with supply. As you can see, I've just turned that on. It gets a little laggy when you do that. That's the only problem. As you can see, it was kind of struggling a bit. I can't scroll much. So if you're going to look at supply, the best thing to do is to get to an area where your troops are. Don't move or scroll. Turn it on. Take a look at the supply for each area. As you can see here, we've got some issues. And then turn the supply off again, because it does tend to lag it out. Graphically, this game isn't going to blow anyone away. But what I do like is there are options if I want to change the aesthetic look. So let's do this. And hopefully this will update everything for me. There you go. Now we have everything turned into this style of unit, which I don't actually like since I've got used to hex games. But it's there, and it's a nice option. I think some people will actually enjoy seeing those sort of counters, but I'm going to turn that off because I'm not a huge fan. You can purchase units as well. You get so many military production points, so I think that's what it stands for. You get so many MPP per turn, and then you can spend that on different divisions. And say I want to bring in a ship of the line, the South Carolina, I can upgrade that with my technology and I can purchase it, and then you can look at the production line on what I have coming in the next few months, which is cool, right? So I won't get that until May, June. So 2nd of May 64 is when that will actually show up, and I have 2 other divisions coming as well. You can also look at what the French are producing and all of your allies, which is cool. As I've been over the diplomacy system, not particularly advanced, but quite influential in getting the European powers to join you. That's really your only goal. Okay, so if we take a look at the research system as well, I can put so much of my MPP into an area. So let's say I wanted to increase my research of heavy mortars. I can do that by spending 200 MPP, and that will increase that area of technology. There's some cool stuff like experimental submarines, which I've actually used against the Union, experimental balloons, production technology, which I should have done earlier in the war and I didn't, but that was my kind of naivety to the game. And there you can see all of the different levels of technology that have been achieved. So we're still a little bit behind the European nations in that sense, and we don't have much on amphibious warfare, but hey, I don't think we really need it at this stage. Then you have a report screen where you can see casualties and you can check on different aspects of the war and how you're doing. As you can see, I've inflicted a lot more, 69% casualties on the Union, which is pretty good. I think that we're actually going to cause them some problems there. They've lost almost 29 divisions in the war so far, and I've lost only 6. I am playing on a slightly easier difficulty though, as I was new to the game. So that really wraps it up, everyone. It's a really engaging game. I want to, talk about how much fun I have had so far, holding the line initially in Northern Virginia, pushing up with Robert E. Lee into Maryland, and now, launching a final assault on the capital of Washington. It was touch and go in the early years over in Tennessee, where I had a few issues here, which was not great. And like I said, I ended up falling back to Nashville, losing Nashville, and then retaking it. And all the cool things that have been done in this campaign so far. It's very immersive, and I think I'm looking forward to doing a full written review. As you can see, this unit here, this is division, and I can upgrade the weapons in this division so that the unit becomes better. I could have rail moved it. You know, you basically left click to move your units. It's fairly simple. I can move up here and I can launch an attack. And that calls them to retreat. And essentially, if I have a unit available, which I don't, I can then take the town, which has an FS value of 2. If your FS value gets too low, you're demoralized and lose the war. So I think eventually that is what I will do to the Union. It's a very cool game, and I'm looking forward to giving it a critical analysis. But with the Steam release, I really wanted to just give you a first impressions on what I'm thinking about the game. And as a war game goes, the scale is absolutely awesome. I love the Civil War. I'm learning lots and lots about the Civil War that I didn't know, especially in the beginning and some of the events that take place around Missouri and then Kentucky as well. Some really interesting historical options that you can pick, and I'll try and highlight that in my actual review. Overall, this is a really good game. I'd encourage you to pick it up on Steam. I got it for full price. I don't feel cheated at all. I've probably put 15 hours into this campaign alone, and I'm only at 1863. I did take my time. You know, sometimes I'm doing other things and I jump in and out of games like this, but I would say I'm on about 15 hours, and I feel like I more than have my money's worth paying. I think it was full price from the Matrix site. Highly recommended. Do hold out. I'm going to do the definitive review very soon once I finish this campaign and maybe start one as the Union, and I'm looking forward to discussing the game more with you. I've been Luke from LT Gaming. Make sure to drop down below, comment, are you going to pick the game up? Have you played the game? What are your impressions so far? Subscribe to the channel, as we are growing so fast that we're not sure what to do, but we're absolutely loving all of the attention. And as always, I will see you on the next one.